Good morning, good afternoon, depending upon where you all are. I am Dion Kokorapia, and it is my pleasure to welcome everyone to our presentation today. We're so glad you're here. We'll get started in just a minute, but I just want to take a few seconds to go over a few housekeeping items, and then we will jump right in. Before we get started, we'd just like to remind everyone of our commitment to maintaining a safe and accountable space. If you experience issues or need assistance, please feel free to reach out to me using the direct message feature found at the top right-hand corner of the event um, toolbar, which has a blue highlighted background there. And I'm going to just quickly walk you through the tools session. There is a vertical toolbar to the right of your screen. If you look at that, you'll see all the icons that you will be using during the session. The first one is the chat feature. The second one is the Q&A feature, which I'd like to ask you all to please drop any questions that you have in the Q&A section as opposed to the chat. With the number of people who are joining, the chat goes by really quickly. So we just want to make sure we don't miss any questions. So any questions that you have, just drop it in the Q&A section there. The next icon will allow you to see all of the people who are in the session. The next one is for polls. I don't think we're going to have any polls for this section, but just in case, that's where you will find the poll. Then the next one is for the breakout rooms. And then all of the resources that you need, the slide deck and everything for this particular session can be found in this resource tab here. And then the event toolbar at the top that I mentioned earlier is where you will find all of the tools for the actual event. If you open up a tab on that event, for example, the feed, make sure that you close it, because if you don't close it, then it's going to cover up the session icons, and then you'll be typing into the event tabs and not the session tabs. So just wanted to bring that to your attention. Again, as you're asking questions or making comments, if you would like to upvote a question that someone asked, just click on that little icon under the question, and that will move that question up, and we'll know that multiple people are interested in receiving a response to that question. And then if any time during the session you need to step away, take a break, you need to decompress, please feel free to do so. You're welcome to join our wellness room, which you can access from this screen at the top left, and one of our team members will meet you there. And now it is my pleasure to introduce our speaker for today, Deborah Cady. And I will read a little bit about Deborah, and then I will let her take it away. So Deborah Cady is the CEO of Silver Linings International, LLC. She is a licensed clinical social worker, and she offers facilitation, coaching, consulting, and training on achieving strength-based positive change for individuals and organizations. She combines her 30 plus years experience in her career in behavioral health, specifically her experience as a trauma-informed manager, with her appreciative inquiry facilitation certification to deliver virtual trainings courses that create positive outcomes for people and the systems who work with and for children, youth, young adults, and other vulnerable populations. Deborah, we are so happy that you are here with us today, and the stage is yours.
All right. Thank you for that awesome introduction, and welcome everyone. I'm so glad that you're here, and you had a lot of choices to choose from, and I'm glad that you chose this particular workshop. Trauma-informed supervision, practical strategies to support staff with lived experience. And as you know, I am Deborah Cady, and I am going to move into my presentation. I see you're already in chat. You're writing your name, right pronouns, location, your role, and you can interact with each other. I love how you're like hearting other people's, oh, I'm so glad to see you. So keep that coming, keep that coming. It's a good way in a virtual setting for people to like connect and warm up to each other. And so keep that in there, keep it going. So this workshop is designed to equip supervisors with practical strategies for trauma-informed supervision. And the focus really is about creating a supportive work environment, especially for staff with lived experience or trauma backgrounds. And I'm glad that you've jumped in on this topic, because I really think it's super important for everyone. I have curated from my trauma-informed supervisors course 6 actionable strategies that I think will give you like, okay, I can take this and I can run with this. I think that I can use these strategies now. And then really, I'm hoping that you're going to learn to enhance what you've been doing in terms of understanding the importance of a supportive work environment, and then tools to promote staff resilience. And you know what? Let's reduce turnover, right? Okay, so this is just a heads up. It's a trauma trigger warning. It's called trauma-informed supervision. I'm going to say the word over again. And so I just want to let you know, take some deep breaths. If you want to, you don't have to turn off the camera because I can't see you, but you might want to journal about it, take a break, go for a walk, go to the wellness room that is here. I'm so glad that the System of Care Summit has that. Just really recognizing that sometimes when you're in a workshop, it's like, oh, that kind of hit me weird. So I want us all to be in a safe learning environment. And thank you. So why am I so pumped up about this topic? I'm going to tell you why. And 70% globally of people have experienced a traumatic event. In the United States, it's 82%. That's a lot. And COVID had a lot to do with that, but it's so incredibly prevalent. So here's the thing. So these statistics are true. So if that's true, which it is, we can assume at least 70 to 82% of your staff and colleagues have experienced something as well. I know you can use emojis here, and if you hear something that I say, you can send some emojis, and that kind of tells me like, oh, yeah, I can feel it in the workplace. So while we're talking about this idea of being a trauma-informed supervisor, it's good for everyone. And so when we think about going about our day and doing, supervisory tasks, the idea that we may unintentionally trigger or upset somebody as a result of doing our jobs, right? And so it's pretty high. And I know none of us, if you're in this workshop, you're wanting to I don't want to create that scenario, and I want to be able to, feel more confident in those situations. So first I might add is just so framing about being triggered. It could be that there's like a topic that you're presenting, a comment. It could be anything that reminds somebody of a past trauma or just even a past negative experience. Or you may look like somebody's second grade teacher that they have an issue with. You just don't know, or there's a phrase that you use that. So there's just a lot of things to be aware of. So when I use that word, that's what I'm talking about. Yes. So in chat, if you're able to do this, these are the 16 ways that trauma responses can show up at work. And I would love, okay, so Angela, I love it. Activated, impact instead of triggered. I love it. And you know what? I'm going to use it. I'm stealing it. Thank you. Give a thumbs up. I love it. Activated and impacted. Okay, I got to write it down because I don't want to lose that. I love this audience. Oh my gosh. Okay. So when you look at these 16 ways that trauma can show up at work, I'm wondering if you could put in chat, look at the numbers. We've heard of the fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. When things are happening, people have some natural propensities to go into one of these categories, right? And fighting could be somebody's angry, right? You could or somebody's just really sort of lost objectivity. That just doesn't make any sense. I just, wondering what's, happening. Or somebody who's feeling really persecuted. These are those fight responses, right? And so flight might be about fear or avoidance, or maybe some physical or mental health symptoms, like I'm feeling good today, or some numbing, I'm just kind of pulling back from that. Freeze, it's oh my goodness, maybe somebody is in the moment of I'm just feeling so helpless. And even though I know how to do this, I just don't know how to creatively create something new, or I'm skilled, but I just can't. I'm just frozen. Maybe it's even dissociative moments where you're like looking out at the window, somebody's staring out at the window, just being somewhere else. Or it could even like people falling into some addictive behaviors, right? Or fawning. It's like, I'm just not enough, or I'm always working. If I just work, it's going to get better, or I feel guilty, or maybe I'm just minimizing. It's no big deal. I'd love to see if you write some numbers of what you've seen in your workplace. If you see like, oh, I see a 1 and a 7 and a 15, I'd love you just to flood the chat with the numbers that you're seeing. It could be with your colleagues or with your staff. I would love to see you in chat, see what kind of the numbers that you're seeing that are corresponding with some of these responses that pop up at work. Let's see. All right. Okay. Thank you. Oh my gosh. Look at okay. Beth. Oh my goodness gracious. Okay. All right. Okay. You work in emergency. You're going to see it all. Yep. I'm looking at pretty much everything in the fight section, because, people keep it coming. I want you to see that you are not alone, right? Keep them coming. And it's going to be what you're seeing. So if you're willing, and if you want to, you don't have to, this is your choice. How many of these do you are affecting you? Because you're human, right? You're working hard, and and things happen that kind of get you riled up as well. This is like a good self-reflection on us as supervisor, because the more neutral we can remain, more than I'd like to admit. Okay, you know what? This honest reflection can really help us understand, what my go-to is fight. And so maybe I need to notice that and say, in this situation, I really want to try to remain neutral. I'm going to take a break. And not enough. I know supervisors typically, the one thing that I hear in the courses that I teach is I am not enough and I'm always working. And if I just keep, as Taylor Swift says, it's me. Hi, I'm the problem. It's me. I love the energy that you're putting into chat. So whatever you're putting in chat, we can really understand that. And so I think it's important to number one, understand the prevalence, understand that when you see it, to have a curious mind by noticing rather than reacting, not just for ourselves, but for other people. And our response then can be different than when we are activated. I'm using the word. Okay. So trauma-informed supervision, it's an emerging topic. It does minimize the risk of, traumatizing or re-traumatizing. It's just a way to make you feel more empowered and a little bit more grounded, and not feel like, oh my gosh, there's so much going on. There's so many fires that I'm putting out. And so it's just a way for you to incorporate probably some of the things and maybe you do for other people, and applying that to yourself. And I see a comment in here from Veronica. 100% staff go into different categories, because our fight, flight, fawn, and freeze reactions are going to be different on any given day. And we can do the same thing. There are certain situations I'm fighting. You know what? Those are fighting words. And then there are other situations where I freeze, right? We all do that. So given the situation, you're going to see these, but usually I have to say people have a preference, but you probably know about that as well as I do. So here's the 6 trauma-informed principles that were put together by SAMHSA: safety, trust, and transparency, cultural humility, collaboration, mutuality, empowerment, voice and choice, and peer support, right? And we know this when we're working with youth and young adults or children's or family. How do we apply those? Are we doing systems change? And here's the thing that we want to remember is, so how do we apply those in supervision, right? Okay, so what I've done is I've curated for you from my course. Of course, the course is a lot longer, right? But for this presentation, I picked out the things that I feel like you could run with right away. So let's just start off. So you're going to get one strategy from each principal. So let's look at psychological safety. So the very first thing that we want to think about is creating safe and brave workspaces for employee wellness and problem solving. Okay, I'm going to say this before I'm going to beat you to it. There's really not a safe place. Who would agree with that? I want to see some emojis or something come in. It's right. It's like, you can make places safe psychologically. Thank you. Okay, I'm seeing it. Right. And it's like, yeah, agreed. Right. Thank you, Natalie. So here's the thing is that's why I add this brave part, because let's create as much as we can a safe, psychologically safe work environment, but also that it's safe enough to be brave enough to take a chance, right? And that's a different level. And when we're looking at that, we really want to think about, if you do nothing else, this is where you start. How is your safe, brave, and accountable space, right? So how do we agree with our staff? How do you want me to set up the way we're going to talk with each other? When you have something that you want to say and you're not sure how I'm going to respond to it, how do we do that together, right? How do I make this safe but brave enough for you to feel like there's no retribution, I'm not going to tell other people, and we're both going to hold each other accountable for these agreements. So sitting down with each individual employee, because cookie cutter does not work. What works for you isn't going to work for somebody else. So really asking your staff, how can I make this environment an environment where you feel free enough or brave enough to share what's really on your mind, or right? So leaning into creating those spaces. And when I was talking about in these agreements, I call them appreciative agreements. And it's really ground rules about how we're going to communicate with each other, what's confidential. And, you may be able to establish a relationship, a trusting relationship with this person, so that you are able to have them share, well, these are sort of like what you're asking me to do is you're kind of asking me to face a past trigger past activation event, or something that has impacted me negatively in the past. And I'd like to be able to do this thing, or is it absolutely necessary that I have to be in that situation, right? So you really think about, like, over time is laying the foundation for that communication. And I call them appreciative agreements. Now here's, this is just, some people don't like the accountability part, but that's the most important thing, is that we hold each other accountable. Like if I said, we're not going to be judgmental, right? Or I'm going to use, assume positive intention. We're going to celebrate our wins. We make these agreements and how we're going to work together to create the psychological safety. And when it doesn't happen, we can do this last one. I have kind of like put them in orange here to match my jacket, but it's okay that you can ask for a do-over, right? Or a redo, because you know what? I make mistakes, and I bet you do too. And we don't always intend to. And so having an agreement that if that happens, right, where I've said something or done something that kind of didn't honor our agreements or just landed wrong, can I get a do-over, right? Because that deepens the relationship and the problem solving, right? And so, yes, I love Angela. People can heart that. Look what she's written in chat. Remind us, laying the foundation. It's encompassing everything, right? So we're going to get to that. Okay, that was just an example. And if you're doing a training as a supervisor, you may get some group, like your group can decide, here are like 4 things that we're going to agree on, right? And this is how, as a supervisor, you're going to guide the group, because you're going to have people in your team meetings, right, who have different experiences, and maybe they have lived experience and maybe they don't, or everybody's has lived experience to some extent, right? And so really coming up with figuring out, like, how can we do this in a more intentional way? the staff that I had would come in and they would slap down like the sticky note and say, you know, that brave space you were talking about, I need that space right now. And I'm like, okay, let's make sure everything's confidential. Let's close the door. Let's go outside because the walls are too thin, right? And so really like having these in place will help guide you and help you create that space that you want to. Okay, so then I'm going to move into the second principle, which is about trust and transparency, right? Okay, super important. You want to build trust and rapport, clear communication, clear boundary setting. Nothing's worse than having a supervisor who is crossing boundaries. And I would have you raise your hand, but you could just like do some emojis if that's ever happened. It's like a supervisor having, thank you. So it's happened. I'm not the only person that's happened to. And so for you is really getting clear what you can and cannot do, what you will and won't do. And doing things like, and don't be hating on me for this, but if you're going to be Facebook friends or Instagram friends with your staff, you're going to get a lot of information about your staff. And you might not know what to do with that. And it could really backfire for your staff if you're seeing all of the activities. They went up last night and they called in sick the next day. All right. So here's the thing. It's like, so it's revisiting boundaries. Like, are you working until 10 o'clock at night and you're texting or you're emailing your staff? Are they supposed to be doing that? Like, you know, really thinking about if you're not enough and you're working all the time, that's your response. But maybe other people need a break, right? So really, you know, experiment with with some of these. Like, we want our staff to go outside their comfort zone, right? We want to create this environment where they can actually go and do the new thing. And it's without judgment, and that they can fail without it being a failure. Like, that's a lesson learned. And here's the thing. Did you ever learn anything when you do everything expertly? No, you only learn by making mistakes. It's the only pathway. Watching somebody else do it and failing, that can be helpful, but there's nothing like the school of hard knocks that will teach you, right? And the more we understand that it's necessary to flub, right? And that all voices matter, and and that we in teams, that we're also, it's not just individually, but as we're guiding our teams, is noticing how the team, right, is interacting with each other and upholding boundaries and agreements as well. So in my course, we go into the 10 ways to create trust and transparency. I've only highlighted this one because, again, I'm curating what I think would be really important for this particular topic of being a supervisor of people with lived experience. Explain your decisions. It's when decisions have to be made, and they do, it's important that people understand where they're coming from, why it's happening, that it makes people, their sympathetic nervous system calm down when they know where the decision is coming from, right? It's like, oh, like, anyone do this to you? And I want to see some emojis floating up. Hey, we need to talk. Anybody ever do that? That's like a 2 thumbs down. Thank you. I see some laughing here, because here's the thing is that sometimes we get busy, and I said to my staff, and I said, oh, hey, can we catch up tomorrow? I need to talk to you about something. And before they left, they were like they were befuddled. There we go. There's a word for you. And it was like, wait, I can't even, like, it's like I've ruined the evening. If I'd done that on a Friday, I would have ruined, right? Panic ensues, right? Panic. And because we had that brave space, they came into my office and said, what do you want to talk about? I said, oh, I'm really excited that I have this new idea, and I want to do blah, blah, blah. And I want to just like pick your brain about it. She's like, oh my gosh, I thought it was getting fired, right? because of past experiences. This person was never going to be fired, ever, right? Highly valued. And so explaining my decisions, explaining if there's something that comes down from top, because they will internalize it. What did I do? Because of that past experience, right? And so really thinking about, anyway, so explaining your decisions, you can see all of the other things that go into build trust and transparency. Okay, Nicole, let's see. I have to tell myself it's nothing negative. You're not in trouble, right? So at least you get that. But also there's a part of no surprises either. Explaining your decision. Oh, you're acknowledging me for like an award. I don't feel comfortable with that either, and I don't want to be set up. Right? So explaining decisions, explaining how things are coming down when you can. Now, sometimes there are going to be things that you get told that you're like, you cannot share with your staff, right? And so you can say, has nothing to do with you. It came from above. I cannot share. I'm not allowed to. And this is how we are all as a team going to incorporate this new change. And we're going to move forward. And as a role model, right, you're going to just move forward, right? And then if people can want to meet with you individually to process that, I also explain your decisions. If you're making a major decision and you're going to announce it at the team meeting, that's going to cause a lot of anxiety. Meet with each person individually to let them know what the change is so they have a chance to process it, right? So that they're not caught off guard, and that could cause one of those activated events and feelings of defenses, right? And so there we go. There's your like little tip. Yeah. So let's look at more about like cultural humility. So, really thinking about how we can achieve better staff engagement through authentic connection and responsiveness. And your approach communicating and connecting is affected by everything in your experiences and your cultural norms, right? And have you ever ruffled someone's feathers and without knowing why? I want to see a bunch of emojis floating up, or you can put a thumbs up in chat. I want to see if there are other people ever ruffled somebody's feather, like you just said something that you thought was maybe even like really cool or really awesome. Like, I just want to see some more of them, but you just are like, I have no idea why I ruffled that person's feather. I have no clue how that even happened. What just happened? And you're like speechless and you don't understand. And it's like, I don't even know. Oh my goodness gracious. Dawn, thank you for that really cool little representation of that. Because here's the thing is, when we think about culture, it's a concept like an iceberg, right? And the surface culture is everything that we can see easily, like music and language and dress and food, right? The shadow culture right below that are like some unspoken, but you understand by some groups. If you're in certain cultural groups, you kind of like, oh yeah, you start talking about certain things, but way deep below this deep culture, it's very hard to see. And when you're unaware of what is in someone's deep culture, you can get into really heavy conflicts and disagreements, and alternatively, really deep connections, right? Because there's always like both sides to it. So this idea of really knowing people well enough so that when you ruffle fewer feathers, because, right, we do our best, but getting to know people at a deeper level can help us stay out of that unintentional culture clash, right? So we are in a constant cycle of responding and interacting with each other, right? Different cultural lenses all the time, right? And so your team has their experiences, maybe even your team gets their own culture or their own cultural norms, and everybody's responding to everybody all the time. And if it's about those really deep ones that no one can talk about because they don't know what they are, it's hard to like, to share. And I am glad that you have some positive to share with you. Oh my gosh, Carrie, thank you. So So we're going to save the breakout room for the end because I know you all should connect with each other. That's the other thing. That's what this is all about, is it's like connecting. So I'm going to move to the last three, and then you're going to get to go into breakout room. That doesn't mean leave. That means stay around because we're going to answer questions after that. So collaboration and mutuality is about, again, authentic connections and responsiveness. When someone has more perceived power, you really want to look towards balancing it. And I know you all know what it feels like when there's an imbalance of power. Again, you can through emojis tell me if that do you feel like I feel when things are out of power, right? That things are balanced in the wrong way. And you may feel like maybe one person on the team has more power than the rest, and you're like, I don't understand why that's happening. It could be some of those defense responses, right? People are afraid to piss somebody off, quite frankly, right? And so all of a sudden you get this shift in power. So always thinking about how do we stay on the seesaw where it's more equal. So level the playing field, and inform of the rule changes, activities, schedules. When things are going to change, it's really important because, quite frankly, nobody likes to change unless you're in charge of it. So the better heads up, the more information we have about why things are changing and how it affects us personally. If people are able to have some voice and choice about what that change is going to be, that's fantastic. No surprises, even if it's good. I said that before, I'm going to say it again. I've had several staff that I do not want to be acknowledged for this really cool thing I did. No, I don't want it. It makes me uncomfortable. I feel it sets me up like you're putting me on a pedestal. I will just fall. I don't want that, right? No surprises, really giving lots of information. And then just really understanding, especially on a team, what are everybody's roles and value, right? And so if you have a team that you have peer specialists and they were hired because they have lived experience, and then you have staff or therapists who are hired, who actually may have lived experience. But all of a sudden on a team, somebody's like, oh, well, asking the peer support specialist, well, what's your experience with that? Okay, that's not really, well, are you going to share what yours is? Right? It's like having these real clear boundaries and roles. The person who's a peer support specialist has lived experience, is bringing a ton of value to the organization. And so, making sure they feel just on the same playing field as everyone else, and that their feedback is equally measured, right? And so making sure that everyone understands their role, and then holding people accountable to boundaries and your agreements. So let's look at empowerment, voice, and choice. So when we think about that, it's all about what are the person's strengths? How do we offer meaningful voice and choice at work? How do we do that? Any way we can would be the answer. So when you start to apply these principles that we have, you begin to be like a staff directed. You want the staff to really direct, but you're kind of guiding what's possible. Because sometimes we don't have choice, right? But whereas we do, the supervisor can be really clear about what those choices might be. So I have this little handout, again, curated for you. I've all of these handouts for you to download in the resource, trauma-informed supervisors, and I've got all of the stuff. I have extra stuff in there too. But this is just a really nice guide for you. You can use it, you can modify it, you can adapt it, you can do whatever you want. It's it's just a conversation starter about trying to empower and giving voice and choice to employees, and maybe in ways that maybe you weren't, even thought about, right? So here's one, how I learn best. The best way to teach me is by, and then people can actually say, I need to see it first, or I need to read about it first, or I need to shadow somebody, and having these open conversations. Otherwise we like, that's learning style, but it's so helpful for us as supervisors to understand, oh, my staff would really blossom if they could read this manual. This person's like, please do not give me anything to read. I need to do it, right? I need to like do it this way. So, things that I need support with, right? And then, filling these out, you can choose one like each time. The things that way to give me feedback in the way that I can hear. I have used this. I had very I had very strict and strong boss in my day, and I've been in the field for a long time, so you don't even know who it is, and they're retired, so you don't even know. But he was known for basically being the meanest person in any meetings, and I was like, now I feel like a fragile butterfly, right? And I went into supervision and I said, listen, you know what? Here's the thing. I will beat myself 5 times over for any mess up that I'm probably going to make a mess up. I'm a new manager, senior level manager, probably going to mess up. I just need you to kindly and nicely tell me what it is and let us move on, because I will sit in, I will beat myself up. I mean, for days and days and days. And it's interesting. He never bashed me in a team meeting. He never, when I made mistakes, didn't bash me in individual. I think I was one of the few people, but I brought it like forward. So if you're a staff and you're talking to your boss, you can actually go up, right? And say, you know what? I can supervise upward and say, hey, can we use this for me? I would love that. Okay. Oh, thank you, Kate. This is great. Yeah. So it's a tool. So peer supports. Tell you what, creating this climate of acceptance and growth by implementing like a bunch of shared learning experiences, I have to say that makes me want to go to work, because I get to like be with awesome people who do really cool things, right? And when we do things together that are just natural and normal, it just normalizes that we are there to support each other. We are all in it. We're on the same playing field. We're all in it together. You might do some formal peer connections, like maybe you would set up some mentoring or some shadowing. Like I would say to my staff, you know what? I'm terrible at this. I know, I just have to be, this trust and transparency. I was like, I'm not great at this. And so, here's the thing that I want you to do is I want you to go and shadow Lynn, because Lynn in Wisconsin, and I'm originally from Wisconsin, by the way, Lynn. But here's the thing is that I want you to go and shadow Lynn, because I don't do it that well, right? So I'll also like really tapping into coworker led trainings. Like everybody has like a gift that they can teach, and we can learn from each other. So even, and Lynn, also peer values can be adopted easily. Yes, 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 do it. Informal peer connections, where that, if you're encouraging, if people are able to take, even like a virtual break, you could co-work. I've done that with several colleagues of mine. We're working at the same time, even though we're not working on the same thing. So I don't feel so alone. Pure cultural connections. You could have, you could actually say, we are going to, at every team meeting or once a month, we're going to have one person who's comfortable share something about their culture, right? Inclusive peer activities. Going to a training together can also be one of those things that when you're learning something together, that's pretty awesome too. And then I have a cute little like Post-it note, that you can think about, again, individualizing. Not everybody wants the same thing, right? So the best way to ask and get support from my peers is to, right? So here are these, again, these are like little conversation starters for you. The other awesome ideas I have about getting peer support are this. So you're like intentionally normalizing that this is a part of being on this team, is that we support each other. And this is the way my supervisor will help me build my peer supports. Like, especially if you're new, having a new job is just terrible. It's like who is who, and just like how can you ease that entry into like making authentic connection that doesn't feel so weird. So Here we go. And I have this is also, you can download it. It's just like a reminder. It's like the bosses remember, do these types of things. And that's who we want to be also, right? Create brave spaces. We're trustworthy. We've learned about other cultures. We've listened more than talk. We've owned our mistakes. I messed up, and don't do the same mistake I did. You modeled self-care, not working till 10 and emailing people. You empowered us to take risks, right? Maybe you took a risk and then shared it with people. Sought our input, shared power. These are the things that I wish for you. And these are the strategies that I want you to go away with. And we want to have you now to have an opportunity to share in your breakout rooms strategies that basically, as we were talking, that you were thinking about, oh, I'm going to do more of this. I'm going to start doing this. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to make something. Maybe you just had a completely different creative idea. And so I want you to, we have our session moderator who is going to have us go into Zoom rooms for, I believe, approximately 6 minutes. I think 6 or 7 minutes. So
yes,
Deanna, is that good?
Yes, we'll go in for 7 minutes would be perfect.
Okay.
Come back and
I have a couple of things too. So cool.
Yes.
And just share, just connect with people. Connect. This is about connection. Share your great ideas.
Great. Okay. Get us back here. Well, welcome back, everyone. And I will turn the stage back over to Deborah. Deborah?
All right. So we, y'all just had hopefully a really great breakout. I would love to have you all flood like some emojis about how you felt about that, your breakout session with the new people that you met. There's some hearts. I see some smiles, some thumbs up. It would be fantastic if you would go over into chat and takeaways. You had some takeaways? Oh, okay. Connecting points, validating. What I want to see it. What are some key takeaways from your breakouts? Let's see them in chat. We're all in it together. Carter, yes, we are all in this together. And we know that some of you ended up in a breakout room by yourself, but I'm hoping that you had a chance to maybe do some self-reflection. And we see you. And let's see, inclusive, autonomy. Look at, you're just flooding all of these amazing, this is like knowledge is power, inclusive, different roles, completely agreed on, transparency, absolutely, so much in common. Like, this is like the base of humanity is us connecting with each other. Transparency, challenges of communication, yeah. I'm so glad that you've enjoyed this. The parents, teams alike benefit. Yes. Parents, teams, and youth alike benefit from these approaches. Yes. Boundary, transparent. Ooh, I like that. And so I know that part of what we want to do here also is I have a couple of wrap-up slides and let's see. And I know that there is a function on here called Q&A. And if you have any questions, we'd like to. I'm just reading some of this. If you want to put questions in the Q&A space, and trying to. So I just want to, Jasmine, you're just saying one thing that you've been trying to implement recently is mindful feedback from staff. Oh, I see somebody's hearting it. And I'm trying to read it because before it zooms up. Just as we have yearly employee evaluations, giving them time to give me feedback as well. Jasmine, everyone put that tool into your like supervisory tool belt right now. Can be useful in making a more comfortable environment, because what you're doing is, you're leveling the playing field, right? I'm giving you feedback, but also you being open and transparent to also receiving feedback, but also having those appreciative agreements about how you'll communicate with each other. I had somebody come into class and they went back into my trauma-informed course and they came back and said, oh, I set this safe and brave space. And my staff came in and said, oh, yeah, well, guess what? And just like unloaded, right? And so that's not what this is about, right? That's a defense response. Somebody got activated, right? And so it's how we do that, how we manage that. So Sarah, you're asking, do you have any thoughts on supervising young adult staff with lived experience in particular? And so everything that I've been teaching here applies. Is there something more specific that you could sort of like, is there another question around that? I think I'd love to answer more directly if you were able to give me a little bit more context to that. Okay. Well, what I would say in general is that you can join me on a 30-minute free consultation call. I'm offering in the handouts, if you go to the resources for trauma-informed supervision, I'm offering anybody here, because I feel like, Sarah, running out of time, and I would like to give you like more direct. It's 30 minutes. I will do it free. My calendar, you open up that resource and it goes right to my calendar. And oh my goodness, I already see that Kate has already scheduled. All right, Kate Parada, thank you. So I'm happy to meet with people. It'll go straight to my calendar. And so you may have, like a personal question, something a little bit more deeper that you're like, yeah, Deborah, blah, blah, blah. If you want to join me in the Trauma-Informed Supervisors course, we start on June 5th, Wednesday. And if you go to my website, silverliningsinternational.org, you can see all of the things that I do. But yeah, so if you want to book a free consultation with me, I am not finding a way to call up my slides, Dion. So I am not sure how to do that. All of the resources you saw in
the resource tab, they can pull up your slides.
In the resource tab, I've got all of the handouts that you saw in there, plus more. I have a white paper that I've written about how to retain staff. I'm just trying to think of what's in there. And so
a lot of great resources in there.
I've got a lot of great resources in there for you. So connect with me. And anything else, Dion?
No, that's it. I'm going to wrap us up by thanking you so much, Deborah, for sharing your time, experience, and expertise with us today. And to those of you who attended, we had at one point, I think 118 attendees in the room. Thank you all for being here. Also like to thank our co-moderator, Shane McDonald, for helping us with all of the tech issues and being great. And then our next session is going to start in 30 minutes, and we'll hear from Linz Amir, who will illuminate the intersection of early childhood education and gender identity. Drawing from their book, Rainbow Parenting, Linz will share insights on fostering affirmative environments for LGBTQ+ youth, highlighting the life-saving impact of acceptance. And I'd like to remind you all to please complete the survey that you'll receive at the end of the day for this presentation. And in order to claim your continuing education unit, you'll need to complete that survey. And I'll just wrap up now by saying thank you so much for joining. Enjoy your break, and we'll see you all soon.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Lots of hearts flooding.
Yay. I love the
Great
emojis.
comments.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Let me know how I can be of service.
yes, and don't forget, please look into the resource section for contact information and other resources. The survey, Yolanda, will be sent to you at the end of the day. Everyone will receive an email where they can access the survey. You're welcome. Okay, I'm going to end the session and you all take care.